תקשיבי לי רגע, מתמטית.
כמה פצועים?
את מדברת על ירי ירייה בראש כי פצעו 89,000? משהו כזה? משהו 90,000? 97,000, אוקיי. כן, מה זה פצע? מה זה פצוע? אני אגיד לך מה, הבעיה היא שאת מספרת... אתה
רואה מה הבעיה שלי? שהנטייה הראשונה שלך... אוקיי, טוב.
לא, יש פה נתונים שאת כאילו, את רוצה לזרוק אותם ברצף, וכשמנסים לפרק אותם, את כאילו, את מזיזה את הגולדפוסט כל הזמן. התחלת לדבר על לידות שקטות, אחר כך עברת לילדים.
אתה פתחת.
ואת מדברת על אנשי רפואה אמריקאים.
אני הקראתי לך עדות, שגם העדות הזו לא מספיקה, אבל אני אקריא לך כי כמה קצינום...
אבל מה זה אומר לי? כל אחד יכול... אבל זה לא עובד ככה.
למען ההגינות... שנייה, למען...
אנשים כתבו משהו.
שנייה, תנו לי שנייה לדבר. למען ההגינות, אני מנסה להיות הוגן פה, למען ההגינות, הוא אומר, סבבה, מקבל את העדות, בוא שנייה נבדוק את הממצאים, בוא נראה אם יש דברים אחרים שסותרים את זה או לא, או לצורך...
אני רוצה רק להזכיר לכם שהרבה מהממצאים של האו"ם, והרבה מהדברים שאנחנו יודעים על 7 באוקטובר, זה בעקבות עדויות של אנשי צוות חילוץ והצלה. בין אם זה פרמדיקים, ובין אם זה נהגי אמבולנס.
שנייה, חכי שנייה, ולא הוכר בדבר שהמון מזקה טענו שטויות?
נכון, כי אגב בלבוד זה לא מספיק רק העדות, אבל לא מספיק רק העדות.
רגע, מקרים נקודתיים הופרחו, ולכן הדוח של האו"ם מאוד חשוב בהקשר הזה.
אבל בגלל זה אנחנו מנסים להפריך את הדברים.
ילדים, אנחנו לא מדברים, אבל רותי, אני לא מדברת, אף אחד לא אמר.
שנייה, זה לא רותי, זה דניאל. אבל שנייה, אני רק רוצה להסביר משהו. יש לך כרגע עדות. עדות היא עובדה. עובדה שלה זה דאטה, מה שנקרא. הדאטה
זה לא עובדה, זה ראייה. זה ראייה, זה לא עובדה.
ראייה, זה העובדה. שנייה, כשאני אומר עובדה, אני מתכוון למשהו שאנחנו מנסים להסביר. לא איזה משהו שמוכיח באופן חד משמעי וכו'. ראייה ועדות זה משהו שאנחנו מכניסים למחשבון שלנו כדי לדעת מה באמת קורה. זה מה שנקרא תיאוריית ההסברה. אנחנו מנסים להסביר מה קורה. עכשיו, את צודקת, את מביאה את הדבר הזה, וזה דבר טוב שאת מביאה. אבל דניאל פה מנסה להגיד, אוקיי, בוא שנייה נדבר על דבר שיש בתוך העדות הזאת, נראה כמה היא קבילה וכמה היא לא קבילה. או לחלופין, לפרש את המילים עצמם, כי לפעמים המילים עצמם לא לגמרי ברורות. לבן אדם אחד יש פרשנות אחת, לבן אדם אחר יש פרשנות אחרת. אני חושב שדניאל עושה פה משהו נכון. הוא מנסה, להתייחס לדבר הזה, הוא לא מנסה לעבור למשהו אחר לחלוטין. ודניאל, להגיד לך את האמת, יש המון דברים שהצבא עושה שאני פשוט לא מבין. שזה פשוט לדעתי קטסטרופה. לצורך העניין, היה אפילו בתחקירים מסוימים אני חושב ימ"מ, אם אני לא טועה, זה ימ"מ אלה שמפוצצים? אני חושב שכן. שביחידה מסוימת פיצצו... הנדסה קרבית, נכון, הנדסה קרבית, נכון. שהם פיצצו לצורך העניין אוניברסיטה מבלי שום אישור ומבלי שהיה להם שום חשד. נכון. זה נגיד...
והוא עונה למפקד אוגדת עזה.
כן, שנייה נתן. יש המון דברים שעושים כנגד הוראות פתיחה באש, וגם כנגד יאללה, גם כנגד פקודות, וזה לא מראה לי שהצבא לא נותן לי שום אמון לכך שהם מנסים לפתור את הדברים האלה. סתם לצורך העניין, כמו שאמרתי מקודם, ששליש ממקרי המוות מהחיילים בתוך עזה היה בגלל דוץ. סבבה, ירי דוץ. זה מראה לי שהצבא לא פועל נכון, והכל שם זה פשוט קטסטרופה, והכל שם זה פשוט איזשהו...
play this game. And, I kind of got to where I'm like, okay, if there's something, if God is doing this, then of course, like, I'm game. Like, whatever God is doing, like, I'm good. I'm not going to say no to God. But it better be God, because if it's just some, like, traveling pastor or some preacher or some youth group guy that's trying to, like, get his flock to do this, no, I'm going to be a failed experiment. I'm not playing that game. Anyway, so we were praying. It was specifically about the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and all these other youth groups.
age, right? Like around your age, bro. And that shit didn't work out, bro. And I was like real ruthless at that point afterwards. But the only reason why I was ruthless because I was upset and angry at myself. Because I let myself get to that point where I knew I fucked up. I saw the signs. People warned me of the goddamn signs. I said, you know what? I'm gonna ignore it because I know myself. And it blew up in my face, bro. And that shit hurt. And it was bad for other women at that point in time. I broke a lot of hearts, bro. Maybe that's what you need to do. Break some hearts. Get yourself back, bro. Because at the end of the day, bro, you're not gonna be no person who's not gonna help kids. If you plan on helping kids at one point in time, you're gonna help kids, bro. You plan on being married at one point in time.
Listen, he got the right idea, right? The guy, I know my fashion. My fashion is, good person. And he wants to do some travel, that's a good thing. And trust me, he's gonna meet that girl at the airport. Because that's where you meet a lot of fucking
Exactly.
But I feel like the woman I'm supposed to meet, she's not American. She's not here in the US right now. Like I'll probably run into her somewhere, probably at a fucking airport or some other shit. I don't know, but I just know she's not here, bro. Like especially here in Philly, bro. Like I can't tell y'all, like I was outside, bro. I was getting like annoyed just by looking at the bitches, bro. I was just like, just the loudness and all the, the ratchet shit that's going on today.
Because you saw your ass, bro.
Yeah, you might be right.
Fashions ain't even on Bumble.
But for real, like I just changed, bro. Like I think I'm also getting more mature, and as I'm learning this, and I've always heard this from older men, and I think I'm starting to prioritize it more than I am prioritizing a relationship. But I've always told me, I've had my older uncles tell me this, and my grandfathers, and they were just like, you get to a certain point in your life where chasing women is just not ideal. You don't have a drive for it. You don't care for it. All you really care about is having peace and a peace of mind. That's the biggest thing that I've just been prioritizing since I turned 30.
You can't have peace of mind without a woman. A good woman gives you peace of mind.
Nigga, shut up. We're having a fucking good conversation. Y'all always come with the bullshit.
Just call the N-word, you cooning.
Yeah, but nah, for real, like, in a generation where they used to say younger men don't listen to the older men, I'm one of the younger men who do listen to older men. Like, you feel me? I do listen, and I hear different opinions and shit. But what I also see is that a lot of older men are stressing, killing themselves. Niggas is dying young as shit from stress and all these different things from these relationships or what they thought these relationships were initially thought to be with the woman they had children with. And if I'm looking at that for the long term, for me living and being here on this earth long enough and not dying of shit like blood pressure, which is what most black people fucking die from, I gotta choose what's best for me. And if it means not participating in this shit to ensure my longevity, I'm gonna do that. Like, you feel me? So it's like, I think that's what's happening with a lot of the men that are my age. Or under. They're just not with the stress shit. I think they're becoming, most men were always comfortable being alone, let's be honest. Like, since the dawn of man have lived and died alone. Like, you feel me? Like,
that's just how it is. No brains.
So I think that men have already tapped into us because we've been like this for so long. And that's why women are freaking out. They can't understand, they won't defend us, they won't do this, we won't do that. It's because y'all are a fucking headache, bro. We're being told to do all this.
I'm going to tell this to you, bro. A woman with no kids, right? They come to a certain point where they feel like they didn't accomplish enough in life. And you know what they end up doing? They end up having kids. That's what they do to feel complete.
Wait, what'd you say?
Women do this. I say a woman with no kids. And you see this, a woman who's like those they centered on their profession and all this other stuff. They come to the realization that all that doesn't do anything to them, right? They come to this point where they say, you know what, I need to feel complete, and they have kids. Same thing with a man, bro. At the end of the day, if it's not too late, you're right there. If it's not too late, then they adopt. But in fact, the same thing with a man. No, the same thing with a man too, bro. No, it's gonna get to a point where you're gonna be like, oh my God, I'm not complete. I need a family, right? And after a while, when you get older, bro, the whole idea with you raising a family, you can watch your kids graduate. That's not that view gonna get lower and lower and lower and lower and lower the older you wait, bro. Think about this. If you wait to have kids when you're 40, your kid's gonna be.
Button. It says search button.
Okay, so the search button right there. If you click on that search, it's going to take you to a new screen. On the top right, right under your profile picture, there's a world.
Okay, welcome to Why Did You Block Me? What up, State? Why did you block me?
Blocked you, man.
Oh, probably 100 people at this point.
Oh, that's crazy.
Actually, I'm driving. Can someone else?
Wait, is it driving that prevented you from responding to him? Like holding onto the wheel? Is that what prevented you?
I don't want to be incorrect. I think it's manslaughter, but I'm not sure.
Wait, why don't you just say, I don't know?
I don't
Instead of making him
know.
repeat himself several times.
Sorry,
So,
Matt.
I'm clearly a superior driver. I Googled it while driving. I'm still alive so far. Second degree manslaughter and negligent homicide.
Oh, he can. Listen, man, maybe not second degree manslaughter. That's a bit too much. But negligent homicide, yeah, go do a couple of years of state and you'll be alright.
No.
But this is why in we mine. This is why in New York we mind our business. We don't get in people bullshit. We don't break up fight. We don't play fucking superhero because that's not the city to be doing shit like that.
Right, and that's why
I
a
know about
woman
this.
was raped in front of witnesses on the subway because men don't get involved and help protect us from the criminals and the insane and the violent. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Law and order, Monica. You are arguing against law and order. You're arguing for vigilante justice.
No, I'm not arguing for vigilante justice. I've never said that Nathan.
Was he executed? Yes or no?
Daniel Penny.
And
No, he wasn't executed.
He was killed by a man.
He died.
For the reasons why he killed.
Died, Monica. He was killed.
What's his name? I should know his name. Let me go check his
Jordan
name.
Neely.
Jordan Neely.
Listen, Monica, I have an obligation to protect my wife and the only daughter I have. Everybody else, man, find your own fucking protection. I'm not here to be superhero to everybody. When, what if he had died? You know what I mean? Try to break up shit that got nothing to do with him. Yo, that's
There was a teenager that died. He was curb stomped by a gang of teenagers because he tried to help his friend recover his lost property. It happens, and those teenagers are now facing consequences.
It's like there's
Just like
risk.
your homie. Just like your homie.
No. They murdered the teenager. Daniel Penny defended people.
No.
So
He's facing his
it's completely
consequences,
different.
Micah.
It's completely
Yeah, it's
different. You know what?
He didn't kill the man.
He died.
Completely
Did he
different.
kill him though?
I guess
He
he killed him. He didn't
died.
murder him. He didn't murder him.
Listen, I've never choked anybody to death, but I can imagine how much force it takes to choke someone.
He put him in the recovery position. There's video evidence that he tried to keep him safe. It wasn't.
I shoot you in the head and then I did CPR.
Shooting him did not happen. Don't be hyperbolic. He didn't shoot him.
Called it an analogy, Monica.
Take it back. It's a terrible
Called it an
analogy.
analogy.
No, it's fake. It's a lie. It's a hyperbolic
You're getting all emotional. Are
exaggeration.
you at work
Do
yet?
better, Matt.
When do you clock in, Monica?
Do
clock
better,
in.
Matt. Do better, Matt.
So
Did y'all
this
see-
autopsy
Guys,
report,
all we have to
they
do
said
is say, go into white man,
one of his causes of death
black
was
man, and
strangulation.
Monica will go softly.
Stilgar, we know you hold race-based bigotry. Why are you always putting that on me? We know you
He's
do.
about to snitch on you. Fabricate.
You literally came in here and you wanted to shoehorn the Daniel Penny story into the conversation. And when people don't agree with you, which by the way is the only way to actually have a conversation about it, you throw a fit.
No, I didn't. I went on mute. 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 I went on mute.
You're interrupting me.
I went on mute. What's a lie? You got it. You
You were the one shouting in the mic. You're the reason why I had to feverishly grab for my phone to turn the volume down as my ears began to bleed. You're the one that's telling Matt to be a better man. From yourself. We understand that you have a fetish for black men stepping on your nuts. We'll get there. Just let it happen one step at a time.
Hey, real quick, what is the topic?
The topic is Daniel Penny and Jordan Neely.
So Monica's saying that he didn't choke him, but like I said, if you read the autopsy, it says that one of his causes of death was strangulation. So it made you just leave that.
What were the other causes of death?
It wasn't old age.
Yeah, exactly.
That was slick. I couldn't give you some points for that one.
The mob mentality, the desire to inflict pain upon people who we should praise, the tendency to martyr bad people. We're not a serious society. We're not healthy. My Fashions, what's your take? Did you know that story? Are you familiar with?
What does your pastor say about this, Monica?
Who said we were defending him? Nobody said that he was right.
heard
That's
this
why we trying to make that claim, bro.
Yeah, it happened about a year and a half ago. Jordan Neely was acting erratic. He says, "I'm ready to go to jail today. I don't care. I'm about to hurt somebody." He was yelling at people and throwing trash around the subway. And Daniel Penny came behind him and restrained him, put him to the ground with a chokehold. And yeah, it went viral because, white man kills black man, so white man's evil. And, I just think we're villainizing the heroes and lionizing the criminals, and it's not good.
But also everything is a matter of perception on where you stand, because I got a little sister who is severely schizophrenic, right? And had that dude choke my sister to death, I'd have put hot ones in him. Well, no matter how you twist it and turn it, it's all about where you stand. I mean, just to be honest, because I remember that thing going viral, and there were multiple sides of it. So to somebody, I mean, and this is a cop out, so I'll go ahead and say that now, but to somebody that guy was right, and to somebody that guy was wrong.
Would you let your sister be homeless on the street, drug addicted, so that she accosts innocent people on the subway?
No. That's a great question, because let me say it to you like this: when somebody is seriously
that resulted from, again, communists adopting political strategies that.
Have you guys figured out whether or not God exists yet? I have concerns about Andrew not really being Christian. I think he's a Satanist.
Equal within the church. Jews,
Gentiles and then Old Testament saints that didn't know who Jesus was, and the minute they hear the gospel, they become New Testament saints.
That's a great point for like how give me Chris and Kevin if he wants a little bit to finish, and we'll bring you other guys up. We're just
I'll mute up. Sorry, I'm trying to get coffee.
Oh no, you're good. People were just raising their hands. I don't want to ignore them, but I'm just saying let's finish up here and we'll bring you guys up. But no, that's a good point because it's like those people whenever they heard, they're like, well, look, we're disciples. You know, we've been baptized in the repentance of John and all this other stuff. And it's like whenever they're like, hey, by the way, that is Jesus talking about the one who's coming. They're like, oh yes, we're in. It's like they've been primed because his sheep hear his voice. So that's kind of like people that may not have ever heard the Trinity. Like that would have been like then if they're like, hey, do you believe in the Trinity? And they're
No, look, I got him right here. Last slide, you a trainer, right?
Absolutely.
You a nutritionist too, right?
Yeah.
So on that road, say you got a woman on that road to losing weight, and I've seen many weight loss programs being an athlete too. Is there such thing as a cheat day?
Is there such thing as a cheat day? 1000%.
Okay, so when you have that cheat day, you indulge in something that you like, right? And then you get back on it. So you're not compromised. They throw that in there for a reason because they know too much, it's not letting your focus down. It's go do this.
No. See, that was a terrible example. The reason niggas don't cheat days, the reason niggas have cheat days is two reasons. The first is to either A, reset the metabolism, and then at that point, it's not really a cheat day. You're just resetting the metabolism, right?
Basically, remember, we heard about this.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, this is toxic. Like, this isn't, I just think this is a safe environment. But then...
I think this room's not a safe environment. This room is toxic and you're toxic and you're projecting your toxicity on the room. Yeah. And they say it's projecting her toxicity onto the room, Commander. Everything she's saying is toxic. It's not intelligent.
Is that the funniest voice? The Monty Python Flying Circus voice?
I like that new concert. That shit is so good.
So look, I think the fact of the matter is here is
utter hypocrisy. I thought men under 6'5" can't protect her. So why is he complaining?
Johnny's got another account.
Look, what I'm saying is the guy's gonna do something.
Johnny driving him crazy.
We're not over 6'5".
I mean, here's the thing,
According to
is that no matter what, he's going to end up with an unintentional manslaughter charge, because that's just what it is, point blank, period. It doesn't matter if you were trying to do good when you did it, you still did it.
What about giving them a little 6 months, a year, a little probation, and then that's it? You know what I mean?
I think maybe a couple years over the minimum sentence, because again, bro, you had a lot of things you could have done. I don't mean to be a bitch or anything, but you chose that. You fucking chose that, bro. I'm sorry.
The real failure point here is the administration in the city, the lack of prosecution, the system not working in the way it should in law and order. That's who failed in this situation the most. But yeah, the dude wasn't putting hands on anybody yet. He was just acting fucking nutty, which is, regular business in the New York City subway. It's the mind your own business capital of the world.
Acting nutty.
If the guy put hands on somebody, it'd be a different.
You think it's okay for a grown man who's clearly on a substance
to tell a woman and her child, I'm going to fucking murder you. I'm willing to go to prison for the rest of my life. I'm willing to die today. That someone chokes him out and sustains him. You think that shouldn't have been done? It sucks you got died.
Oh no, there's just various other rules. There are other restraining holds that he could have done.
We're not talking about some innocent guy. Some guy did this already 44 times on the subway. Somebody got arrested 22 times after beating up 5 or 6 innocent women on the previous event. And again, this would have happened another time and another time and another time, and it would have never been over.
Yeah, the police and the DAs and riot shit are the ones that failed.
Just because somebody's saying verbal shit to you doesn't give you the right to put hands on them. We have laws for a reason. Or like I said, he could have had all the best intentions in the world, right? But he still has to take accountability for breaking the law. That's his fault.
No, yeah, but did that guy say, I'm going to murder you?
On the report, it says that he told a woman that he was going to murder her.
So let me ask you this. Two questions, right? Two questions. The first question is, if he had said, I'm going to murder you to a police officer, what would have happened, first of all? Second of all, like, is this thing a race thing? Because if that dude was some homeless white dude, would this conversation be being had as well?
100% a race thing.
Nah,
I don't think it's a race
I think he
thing.
probably still would have been charged.
Yeah, I don't think it's a race.
No, not the charges, but I'm talking about the conversation.
The news coverage probably wouldn't have happened if it was a white dude. You're right. Yeah, you're right insofar as that. But the thing is again, physical threats of violence they don't rise to the level of being able to respond with actual physical violence. That's the problem here. Again, had he had hands on somebody, nobody on that train knew who he was. They didn't know his record. They didn't know his past. They didn't know a propensity of violence existed. They knew as the guy was going off. And it could have been, a sane man who was just acting crazy. It could have been a crazy person. You don't know, right?
No,
and again, we certainly have, the benefit of hindsight, right? Like, this kid had to make this decision in this moment, if he was involved or not. And those aren't easy decisions to make, and they're much easier to pick apart, days, weeks, minutes after, right? But again, the threat of physical violence is not the same as physical violence. And responding physically to verbal behavior is not the move. You wait, you de-escalate, if you want to position yourself between the mom and the stroller and the guy going bananas, that's cool. But until dude puts hands on somebody, until he's actively hurting somebody, you don't get involved.
You're wrong. I posted in the chat. You're absolutely wrong. It is legal to.
Yeah, it's legal.
It's legal to fight somebody who uses action words. It's called fighting.
If somebody tells you, so this is the only thing, right?
Well, no, that's not entirely true. You have to meet the proportional amount of force that the person is using.
That's incorrect.
I'll show it to you. Give me a second.
Wait a minute. When he was throwing trash or whatever, and look, let me say this too. I hate that kid died. He should not have died that day. Just to be honest with you, so like that, I don't think that's the conversation we're having. But when he was throwing garbage, right? Did that garbage hit anybody? Like, did anything hit anybody? Because that then becomes battery, don't it? Oh, you in the matrix, bro. Take a look. And also, moderators, if I'm playing my guitar, tell me to stop it because I thought I was muted. Please don't goo me.
Oh, I didn't know you got moved.
No, I was earlier, yeah. Just, I'm too sensitive. Don't do that, please. Just tell me.
I have a question. If you want to talk.
Yeah, so the fighting words doctrine usually has to be directed at an individual person, and there has to be the ability to make good.
Hold on, so I'm approved. Knowledge wrong. I'm about to post a law.
I'm
Danica!
going to murder you, definitely.
Is that the prime?
Sorry.
And also think it depends where you at because of the concept of standing ground law.
Yeah, we don't have that in New York. We don't have ground.
In New York, you have nothing. You can go to jail for if your nail clippers are too sharp, you're going to jail.
Right. This is why we mind our business in New York. This is why, because there's no law to protect
protect us from anything.
Look, real quick, what's wild is so just two things. I'm blind, right? I got into an altercation at a bus stop, right? And then the police officer asked me how big the knife I was carrying was, right? And I told him, he said I should carry a bigger knife. So that's crazy. So it's crazy how where you're at can determine your reality. I mean, that's of course, but.
Yes, sir. Environment and everything.
Yeah.
The cities and all of that shit.
Hey, you don't have to tell that to me. I'm in fucking Israel.
I mean, the lesson here is, if you're a woman, you should probably have taser and a pepper spray, I get.
Yeah, but if you've ever used pepper spray, you're gonna get pepper spray too, most likely.
Pepper spray gel.
Yeah.
The gel is the best form. Gel. Get pepper gel.
The taser thing is a problem too, unless you're talking about like specifically like a prong taser. The context stuff.
Oh my god, sorry. What is it? Is it a stun gun for the
Stun gun,
like? Yeah, there. My bad. Stun gun and pepper gel. My bad, guys.
No. Okay, so I feel a strong need to clarify this point. A stun gun is the problem. A taser is the thing that's actually an effective tool. And even then, tasers aren't always effective tools. It depends on the type of clothing the person's wearing. If you don't get two prongs set, you're not going to get a good reaction. Anything that just touches the skin and is expected to transmit voltage is not a self-defense tool. It's your false sense of security, and it's probably going to do you more hurt than getting the fuck out.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the goal is that you're supposed to like put distance between yourself first. But in the case that like everything fails, like I don't know, that's what I use. It's worked pretty.
Yeah, that's true.
Bro, I used to play with bugs outside when I was little. I used to grab a slug like nothing, bro. People nowadays, they'll be terrified to do that, you know?
Oh shit, you got Dr. Bando down there in the audience, man. Oh shit.
Oh my god. I didn't
Too early.
Takes a slug.
Too early for this shit, man.
I'm not gonna lie. What were you friendly?
How dare you put this in your title? You projecting. I'm gonna stand up for my friend Oscar, you piece of shit. I'm reporting you for death threats of being a crazy dick suck trans motherfucker. You are been reported. You will be deleted. Your accounts will be deleted. And Oscar is a good man and a father. And you all just a bunch of pieces of shit. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you make death threats? It's Monday, Monday. Everybody's got work on Monday.
Let's see who follows this guy. Hey, Carter. Yeah. The way I hate using Jira is actually like disrespectful. Oh, it's easy. It's easy as people then. Bro, I hate using Jira. I should be sure. Hey, Stacy. Stacy. What is it?
Tarimani boss panchot sultinas hogya kutte tarimani boss panchot sultinas hogya kutte om gam ganapatiya namaha om bubu vasvaha tatsavitur.
$100,000 in America for a teacher. In Canada, they have free health care and they get paid very well. So I think the constant comparison is not a good argument for a conversation like this.
But once again, it's coming out of their taxes, right? Isn't it coming out of their taxes? Once again, it's going. So somebody's gonna have to.
But what's the teacher point have to do with?
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They constantly do that.
What does the teacher point have to do with? I'm lost.
Or it's open carry in Philadelphia.
Yeah, nah, I didn't know that. So now that's another license I want to get besides my class 3. So
No, yeah, still, but still conceal, bro. Don't open carry is bad for business.
Oh no, definitely. I'm not. I would never open carry like out in the open because you know
That's just
people
bad.
be stealing guns and shit. And to Stilgar's point, a lot of things, a lot of the crime that's happening in Philly, what they don't talk about is a lot of the guns that have been scooped up from crimes are disappearing from the sheriff's office without a trace. And are ending up back on the streets basically somehow. We just had
But no, they sell them. Yeah, they sell them.
we had a black police officer get busted selling guns that were used in a crime. He sold an extension bag and all type of shit. Like, dude got caught. So like we got it's a lot. And I think that's why Philly is the way we are. I don't know if y'all been watching the news on this for the past 2-3 years, but the citizens are fighting back against criminals. We've been shooting carjackers, robbers, all type of shit, and they're not showing no mercy. They've just been killing them.
No, and that shit's everywhere. But they don't want that on the news though, bro, because they want at the higher levels of the upper echelons of control, they want us to think that we as society are okay with criminals, that we support them, as opposed to we defend ourselves and protect each other. They don't want us to think like that.
No, they don't. That's why you have the one instance, the one dude who was carjacking, he got shot and killed, and the family tried to sue the guy who shot him, saying it was unnecessary, you didn't need to kill him. And the whole city reacted like, maybe y'all should have raised that motherfucker and better taught him not to try to take shit from people. His ass would still be alive. You know what I mean? So like, Philly is cutthroat here. We don't care. You try me, I'm gonna shoot you, unhesitated. And like, you know what I mean? Like, it just is what it is. Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like places like New York, I talk to New York people all the time, and I ask them about, like, you know, do y'all want to have concealed carry? Do y'all want to have access to guns? And I hear a lot of the times people in New York say no because the population is too many people and etc. And I'm just like, damn, like, you know what I mean?
But what I don't understand, bro, what I look like this, I don't understand this, right? So, depending wherever you are, I don't care, right? I can get a firearm out here just in the streets for $200 all day. You know what I'm saying? No registration. Don't nobody know whose it is. I can go get it for $200 or $300. I can go use that and it's gone. It means nothing. You get what I'm saying? But if I walk into the pawn shop or the store, I'm dropping $400, $500, $600 and my name is attached to it. You get what I'm saying? Because no matter where you are, guns legal or not, there's firearms everywhere and they're easy to obtain.
Yes, they are.
So it's wild to me. Like, I don't understand like the mind frame of somebody who says, "Nah, man, I don't want to be able to protect my people legally." No, but and in the same breath, defend the guys who are walking around with firearms that are not registered and fuck registration, but are not tagged to the purchaser.
Mm-hmm. It's a weird time to be in. Like, I definitely agree. Because, like, I'm more for people being, you know, licensed and getting their firearms, you know, the right way and shit. But you do have those people who want to rely on government or police and shit. And I'm not one of those. Like, I don't understand how people can think like this after we just had mass dropouts of record police officers retiring. We have a shortage of police officers. You had the whole defund the police debacle. And you still think that these people are going to come and defend you. Like, the response time for a police call used to be 30 minutes. Now it's fucking 2 hours. Get it right. Like,
with respect, hey, look, with respect, though, we just had a conversation about how somebody can tell you that they're going to murder you and you can't do shit until they start to act. Ain't that wild? Because, facts, bro. Police protect materials. They protect objects and property. They do not protect people.
Hey, Mesquite. My phone, no Mesquite.
Oh yeah, no, that's cool.
So no, what you just said 100%. Like, one thing I love about Texas, right? If you got a gun, you can protect your belongings and you.
Yeah.
Right? I went to LA, not knowing too much. I'm thinking it's like probably like Texas or shit like that. I don't know too much about liberals and Democrats, all this shit like that, whatever. Got stolen right in my face type shit. I just shit, let my car running. I ran inside the laundromat real quick to throw something in the washer and then I could come back and be straight.
Yeah.
Someone came and took the car keys, shit like that or whatever. I'm trying to find security on some bullshit. Saying that's not my side that's not my side of the parking lot, so you gotta find somebody else. All this other shit. short with everything. The people went to my car. I'm trying to yank the person up. I'm trying to open up the door because I caught them right when they trying to close the door. And I'm trying to open up the door and shit like that or whatever, and they pulled off. Whatever. Cop found my car a few days later, and I asked him. In a situation like this, if I would have had a gun on me, what would have happened if I would have shot her? You know, this motherfucker's response was, I would have went to jail.
Yep. No, that's exactly what happened.
I gotta say something on knowledge, so right. You're providing case law, and that doesn't even apply because they made a state law that addresses this, right? And I'm gonna read it out to you.
Yeah, constitutional law.
Hold on.
Cut him off for that whole shit. That's why you can't make a whole damn mod, bro. Always fucking up.
Can I finish my story real quick?
Is this part of the New York Constitution?
Just let him fucking finish,
Right
you
here.
fucking asshole.
A person may subject to provisions of this subdivision.
That's why you don't give hoe ass niggas the mod, bro.
Use the physical force of harm another person and to the
Lactism.
he or she reasonably believes is such to be necessary. Keyword necessary.
Alright, but like I was saying, though, right?
Yeah.
So now I was talking. So I'm at the police headquarters, or whatever. And they said I went to jail. I said, why? His response was, even if you feel like your life was in danger or whatever the case might be like, if they don't have a gun on them, their life has more value than your property. I said, cool, whatever. I said, I get it, whatever, if that's what it is. Cool. Now, what happens if I'm in a fight and there's multiple people, or someone breaks in my house and they have, and they break my house or whatever, can I shoot? He said, until you see a gun, you can't do shit.
So 100%, bro. And let me tag what you
It's
said.
gonna be state dependent too. That's not the case in Pennsylvania. Somebody breaks my house, I can shoot.
My car's catalytic converter was being cut off. I saw a gun pointed at me. I loaded an AR-15, took out all 3 criminals. All were armed.
Real quick. I want to point something out to you, bro. So I was raised up with the lessons, right? The teaching that if I was going to take somebody's vehicle, and I just want to point this out, going back to the concept of materials versus people. If I'm going to take somebody's
They
vehicle,
scraped the endless off the street with a shovel.
do load them, knock them down, and take the vehicle with the keys, because then I'm only going to charge them unauthorized motor vehicle, as opposed to taking a vehicle that does not have keys, that is a grand
That's what he
theft.
said. And that's what he said. So your car wasn't really stolen because you had keys in there, but they took the keys out and they went back and he said, yeah, but it's not really whatever.
And look, think about
and then I'm like, I had arguments with people out there in LA about this issue, about guns and shit like that, and everything I just said. They like, well, no one should have guns. I'm like, cool. Citizens are not gonna have guns. You're fucking correct. Citizens who will return their guns, whatever the case might be, like, cool and all that shit like that. But the people that's robbing and shit like that, where do you think they get the guns from? They're going to get it from the corrupt ass police officers and shit like that. Criminals are always going to have guns. So you take away guns, now the criminals are going to do what the fuck they're doing in fucking California. They're going to run you over like a fucking clown because they know you ain't got shit to protect yourself.
Does anybody remember the Fast and Furious situation? Does anybody know what that is a reference to? The Mexico gun, shit like that? Does anybody know?
Yeah. The feds were basically found providing guns to cartel.
And then the guns were coming right back here.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying, team?
So here's the thing though, like the question at hand is, do you really want to shoot somebody over stealing your car?
Yes.
Carry guns every day. I'm a strong proponent of the Second Amendment. I have a gun in my waistband as we speak. Somebody wants my car and my life's not in direct danger at that time, take the car. I got insurance. I'm not going to get into a scuffle. I'm not going to get into a shootout over a car, right? So I think that the fact of the matter is discernment.
The only thing I'm going to say to you, brother, is I'm going to say this, right? So, again, perspective and position. Some people are in a position to where if they lose their vehicle, right, they're going to be okay because they have other ways of getting to work, providing for that family. They might have the income or the resources to go get another vehicle, rent a vehicle, something like that. Some people, homie, have nothing. And so when you take that vehicle, I'm not making it to work. If I'm not making it to work, I'm not making rent. My kids is out on the street. Like,
no, man.
But
let me tell you this. Bunker, can I say something? Bunker, can I say something? So
That's a yoga class stretch.
So not only do you have the resources to buy another car, now you have to like spend resources to legal causes to like defend yourself in court and also like get away from jail because you shot somebody over a car. Is that right, Rasik?
Well, no, that's facts though. That's facts. But like, it goes back to what I'm saying though, because when you're standing there, it goes back to when you're standing there watching that car drive away. You get what I'm saying to you? It is all different. It's the same as that kid on the subway. Both of them, because that kid was just having a hard time, right? Maybe. Just like that dude just thought he was protecting somebody, maybe.
Yeah, but that's the clear demarcation point between taking lethal force and not. Is like, if your life is not a direct imminent threat, I don't care what the law in your state is. Even you shouldn't be utilizing lethal force. It's not worth it. I mean, and look, there's countless scenarios in which people have used lawfully possessed firearms in a way that the law protects and allows you to do. But you still have to go through tons of shit, man. There's charges, there's lawyers, there's court cases, the math ain't mathing. Take the car. Peace. I got insurance.
Hey, but you're right. I'll be honest though. To that degree, you're right though. But there is a conversation to be had though.
And if you got a gun and no insurance, you fucked up.
Hey, look, I'm gonna be honest though, right? That's why I love Texas, because and that's the reason we don't have a lot of crime out there. Because what you just said and stuff like that, that's the reason why a lot of people in Texas do not be doing all that crazy shit like they do in California, due to the fact that they know the law has their back. So, like for example, it's that law of saying if you steal anything under 1,000, it's not a felony. So now people go in there just run up to taking shit and know they can get off. Now, like I said, out there in Texas, for an example, you won't even think about robbing a short old white lady because you know that she might smoke your ass. It's like,
I think it depends though. It depends on the place you're talking about, right? Because New York City and Philly have very different gun laws. You can conceal carry in Philadelphia, but Philadelphia has something like twice the crime per capita of New York City.
So I just checked Texas violent crimes stats at the moment. It says that Texas has violent crimes 30% higher than the national average. So based on Tio's point, I don't think that's true. The data doesn't back his point up though.
Look,
yeah, no state where people are running around with guns is a safe state, kind of by definition.
The presence of firearms makes an individual generally safer.
Oh, would you say California is safer then? Respectfully.
Then Texas,
no,
yes.
But your point is not true though. But your point is not
true. There's 1,000 factors that determine your safety in a given geography, and the presence of firearms is a large mover.
Okay.
You interrupted me, so I don't know. You want to swing dicks? We can swing dicks. It's fine.
Hold on. If there's gonna be any dick swinging,
sorry, it's gonna be me.
I would definitely say California is safer than Texas. No question.
Oh, get the fuck out.
But the point. Let me go back to the point, Tio.
Let me ask you this.
Okay, go for it.
Let me ask you this real quick. Where do you live at? Have you ever lived in Texas?
I live in Massachusetts.
Have you ever lived? I'm not even trying to be loud, but have you ever lived in California or Texas?
No.
That's the reason why you say.
I mean, bro, we don't need to live there.
No, let me finish.
Oh my God.
Violent crime is very clear.
Hold on, please let me finish. I lived in both. And that's
you know how big living in these states would be.
Oh my God, this is where Tio's making a fault.
Yo,
He's not even seeing it. The data doesn't back it.
Hold on. This is like me saying, wait.
Y'all are dumb. Y'all just Google it. It says the violent crime rate in California is higher than Texas. It's a quick Google search. It comes right up. We know statistically California is slightly higher than Texas. So recognize that it's not accurate, right? Let's get to the point.
Can we do one at a time?
Can I get? Let me just be more exact real quick. He's right about what he said. It's a big state, both of them. So to be more exact, I lived in Houston, and I lived in...
Is it me or am I out
in Houston? Then I did
in
LA.
Can you back up real quick? We lost you. You went in the Matrix. You say that again.
What I said was that in the two different cities I lived in, right? I lived in LA, and I also lived in Houston. When I tell you the 10 years I lived in Houston, not once I went through any bullshit. Not once.
Yeah, but bro, this is anecdotal evidence. This is your personal experience does not negate an entire trend.
Can I go off the cigar?
The FBI crime statistics measure per capita violent crime rates, and California is higher than Texas. Yeah, that's fine. Look, but again, your personal anecdotes like don't move the needle. You're one guy. You know what I mean? The fact of the matter is the presence of firearms being available lawfully to carry isn't the prime mover in any of this shit. The vast majority of this shit comes down to socioeconomic conditions. It comes down to all sorts of other factors in these different localities that determine these crime rates.
I agree.
I don't think that you can point to a trend in either direction.
But
Yes,
all thing is
100%. That's the
like,
point. Oh my God.
Go ahead.
Let me tell you where you're wrong. Okay, so Stuttgart's absolutely right. Like you made a point that said that guns are like making Texas safer, which is not the case. The data doesn't show that, and that's what I was going to point out. Again, I'm not arguing that crimes in California are at much higher rates in Texas. I'm not arguing that. I do agree that violent crimes in California is much higher than Texas. But I'm arguing against a point that you said, which was like, hey, guns make like in Texas, since we have guns, nobody's doing no drop shit. To which I said, hey, no, that's not true. Texas does have a higher national violent crime rate compared to the national average. That's the only argument that I have against.
Just for chaos. I'm gonna tell you why I say this on anecdotal, like you said, it don't matter, or on paper, it don't matter. But criminals with a mindset, I'm telling you, out there in Texas, in Houston, or in Texas in general, in this segment right here, criminals are going to think twice about doing a crime compared to in California. They don't have any other criminals.
You do know that like Louisiana is a state, right? You do know that Louisiana is a state with tons of guns, right? You do know Louisiana is real fucking violent, right?
You do know Thugger Biden is a Democrat shill, a Pfizer executive, a low IQ vaccinologist that hates black men, hates white men, hates his life, hates his wife. He's a closet homosexual, and he's a complete incompetent who should be at work probably instead of running his fucking mouth on this app, lecturing all of you because he is a narcissistic, egotistical, self-centered, low IQ, big talker. A clown house hero, a real world zero. Thank you, I am complete.
Saying that you live
That nigga weed did the emoji instead of fucking moderating. Wow, what a hole.
Also saying that you've lived in Texas, right? And that would tell you something about Texas would be the same as me saying I lived in Massachusetts, and that tells me about somebody who lives in Philadelphia. In terms of Texas is enormous, right? You cannot say because you live in one city in Texas that is just there is no
That's actually a very good point.
Enormous
real quick though.
Yeah, two guys can live in Texas and live 17 hours.
Yeah, if I lived in New York City, do I know what people are doing in Maine? No, but it's the same geographic distance.
And somebody look at the violent crime rates in the UK where there are no guns compared to the violent crime rates here in America, where there are firearms. Can we look at that?
Can I ask a question?
So that wouldn't be.
No, be master bitch.
There's other differences, right? Obviously there's much lower violent crime rates in the UK than Europe. Generally has lower crime rates in the United States. But even within the United States, right? The states that have the most guns in circulation have higher gun homicides. The states that are geographically close to the places, right? Even if they have strict gun laws, if they're close to the places that don't have strict gun laws, and it's within a commuting distance, they have higher violence, like Chicago, right? Indiana is right there, and guns are everywhere in Indiana.
Everywhere, yeah.
So it doesn't matter what Chicago's gun laws are, because you could just drive an hour, and people just give you guns. Whereas in Massachusetts, New Hampshire doesn't sell guns to Massachusetts residents. Right? So even if New Hampshire has laxer gun laws, you can't just drive up to New Hampshire as a Massachusetts resident and go buy a gun. They're not going to sell it to you.
Hey, check it like this though, but I could drive up there and give somebody $200 to go buy that gun for me.
That's an added step, right? You could always do that, right? But that's very different. You have to find somebody. Do you know somebody up there? That's the question.
Can I say something? And again, it's anecdotal. I could go buy a little bottle of tequila and a cheeseburger and talk to her for 10 minutes to have her buy me one.
If that happens, she'll go to jail because it's in her name, the gun, right? Is she willing to do that?
without an answer.
It's more moist than cornbread. So bread is not quite as. Oh, I said
voice.
I said the word. Sorry. I mean, I don't understand that.
Yeah,
But
what's wrong with weight?
I don't know. Don't ask me. But that's the only.
Oh! News ever today. Trump is on the Undertaker's podcast. Someone just sent me a reminder. Oh, 100%.
Wait, can we talk about what Trump did with his weekend real quick?
That was amazing.
He spent the weekend working at McDonald's just so he can say that he's the only presidential candidate who worked at McDonald's because he doesn't believe that Harris ever did.
And it's
That is the king troll of all trolls I've ever heard of in my life.
I am. You guys know I'm not a Trump fan, but dude, as far as trolling, like that is some respect.
That is a previous president stood and worked a full shift at a McDonald's just to troll his opponent. That is.
If I was one of the people that got served McDonald's from President Trump, I would put that on eBay immediately for like $1 million. You're like seriously, someone would buy that. Like, how many people can say a president served them French fries? Like, that is great.
He wished Kamala happy birthday. He said happy 60th birthday, Kamala.
Wait, was it also her birthday this weekend?
I don't know, but yeah, he
Yeah,
did
it was
say that. He said get her some fries.
Her birthday was yesterday.
Yeah.
That's up.
The layers of trolling just keep getting better and better.
Speaking of that, did you guys see? I guess it was one of the late night shows. Dave Bautista, the wrestler turned blue guy from the Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's like putting with people. Yeah, he's the blue guy.
Drax. He was Drax, and he wasn't blue. He was like orangish reddish.
I thought he was blue. Not Michael Rucker blue, but I thought he was still kind of bluish. Okay. Anyways, the big guy on the good team from Guardians of the Galaxy. Anyway, it's like when he was all like super tough wrestler, he was like this massive giant guy, and now it's like that he's apparently turned liberal and is like supporting Kamala. Like he's like a shell of his former self. Like his face is all weird and round and small. He's got dorky glasses on. He's still trying to he is getting older, but I mean, something happens, man. You get people who are still like 100 years old, and if they're like, look at Sylvester Stallone. He's older than Batista, and you could say he's not as big as he used to be, but the guy still looks like he's still in the game. So something happens with your ideology changing. I don't know. Anyways, but did you? Yeah, he's like in his 80, past his 86 or something. Anyways, but so Batista's like, oh, Trump's scared, blah 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 blah. He's trying to act all like tough and everything, and it fails so hard. And then I guess in response, you hear like the bell tolls from like the Undertaker. It's like dong, like the wrestling, and it shows the Undertaker and Kane sitting on a couch with Trump, and he's just like, whose side you gotta choose? You gotta decide, make a choice. Do you want to be with me and Kane, and Brothers of Destruction? It's like a wrestling promo. It was so great. It's like, or do you want to be with Batista and Tim Walz? I'm like, oh, it's great. Then they announced that he's going to be on the Undertaker's podcast. I don't know. I'm a wrestling nerd back in the day. I'm going to have to watch it.
So,
I'm done.
Trump's exact quote was, he wished Vice President Harris happy birthday, saying that he might get her flowers and fries.
That is amazing. Dude, that is just amazing. That level of troll shit, like, you gotta have respect for that. I mean, yeah. As someone who's done a bit of light trolling in their past, Steph knows this.
Well, I missed what you were saying.
I said, as somebody who's done a bit of light trolling in their past, the Trump troll was, I mean, that's a 10 of 10.
Wait, yeah, I was gonna. Nick's right. Is she 60 or did he throw her there?
She's 60.
Yeah, she turned 60 yesterday, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I wasn't sure. I just wanted to be like, she actually is like 55, and he said, happy 60th.
Man, I don't know. We've got, 14 days now until the end of the world? Like, I don't know. If there's just so many shenanigans going on, it's like, between all the bad flops that the Kamala side has, it's like, you saw last week, like, Walls was out trying to like go duck hunting and couldn't figure out how to load his gun. He's like, I had this gun 24 years. I just gotta, just give me a second. He's trying to figure out the butt of the gun where to load the shells. I'm like, dude, then I don't know. Like now there's reports in Georgia saying like for early voting, like apparently they use Dominion voting machines, but the machine in Georgia is supposed to they select who they want, then the machine spits out a printout, and then the people are supposed to verify their answers are correct and then turn in the paper, which is an unnecessary step. Like they can't check a box correctly. Anyway, but now there's like reports from some people saying like they've had to fill it out multiple times because every time it spits out the ballot, it's completely wrong. Like they'll mark it like Republican down ballot, and then when it spits it out, it's like Democrat down ballot. And they're like, what is happening? And they said they had to do it like multiple times to get it to finally spit it out the right way. So like if people just assume it's right and don't check it, then that could be problematic. And then I guess like the judge like struck down like the challenge, the new rule that they were trying to make, where in Georgia they would have to then do a machine count, but then they go back and hand count to verify, and the judge struck that down. Like you have to show your math in 4th grade division homework. Like in what world would they say like you would strike it down if they said we're not going to hand count? Like why would you strike it down and be like no, you're only allowed to go with what the machine says, especially after reports are coming in and the machine's completely wrong. Like, why would anyone say, no, you're not allowed to verify that by hand count? So, I don't know, man. I think this is going to be rough.
For those of you that are older than myself, is this fraud, election fraud, counting, blah, 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 has that always been a thing? Like, you're not that much older than me, Nate.
Yeah, I am really old, so, I have that distinction. So, with Bush v. Gore, there was some of that because in Palm Beach County they had these like old style voting machines that
I was in 4th grade.
Yeah, they were getting a lot of cheating with the old style. You remember the hanging chads? Yeah. Like that was a whole fraud thing that was going on. But like honestly, the level of cheating we saw in 2020, it was just not a thing for most of American history.
Because I feel like this is like the
American
new thing.
history.
I feel like this is like the new thing to just say voting fraud. Like, and I'm like, wait, did we do this 50 years ago? Like, is this a thing 25 years ago, or is this just a thing now? Like, everyone's just going to say voting fraud when they lose.
Oh, well, I mean, like John F. Kennedy only won because fraud in Chicago.
Yeah, they had to get alternative electors and things like that, which was totally fine when he had them, to prevent that. But then when like Trump had like alternative electors because they were gonna like basically cheat and not vote the way that the people who put them in the electorate position wanted, somehow that's bad. But when JFK did it, that was fine, which is fine across the board. You can have alternate electors. But Courtney, if I may, yes, one of the reasons people are screaming voting fraud is they used to have everything was hand counted. So surely there was always some degree of fraud, but not enough to really matter. By people trying to like fudge a couple ballots here, a couple ballots there. So maybe in some local races it mattered, but like I think one of the most famous things was like Huey Long in Louisiana. Was it New Orleans or Louisiana or whatever? But he was governor of Louisiana, and that was a huge thing where people said he cheated. It was like a whole thing. I think he ended up dying for it or getting assassinated or something. But yeah, so there have been a couple cases, but the main reason everyone's screaming voting fraud now is because we've had electronic voting machines not for that long in history, but really in 2016 it started getting some eyes on it, and especially in 2020 when people got their hands on some of the code and were able to like get the machines and test them and found out that these things could so easily be hacked, and then there were claims that they were not connected to the internet. And then there were other people that did investigations and found they absolutely were connected to the internet. So it's basically like where there's smoke, there's fire. So now, as long as they use electronic voting machines for tabulation, it's a legitimate gripe. Whether they fix them all tomorrow, it's still a legitimate gripe because of so much.
It's just a coincidence that Open Society, aka Alex Soros, controls the U.S. election system technology.
Well, I just want to provide the alternative history so you have both perspectives for me. So, in 1960, Richard Nixon absolutely could have made a major deal out of that election against JFK.
and he decided not to because he thought it was in the best interest of the country to move on. In 2000, Al Gore was literally the vice president, and he lost because of the state that his opponent's brother was the governor, and he was vice president. So he could have decided not to certify the election, and a lot of people would not have blamed him because of all the foolishness that happened then. But instead, in the interest of the country, he decided to just move on. The difference,
that is some revisionist history.
So you can say it's revisionist history, but the fact of the matter is, when hold on. All right. Well, Chris, I'll there. Chris, number one, the Supreme Court decided the election right after December 15th. Oh, okay, let's try it again. There were a number of votes. There was butterfly ballots. There was recounts, additional recounts that could have been done. There are other mechanisms of recourse that Al Gore could have done and continued fighting. He absolutely could have continued the legal battle. That is my point. And my other point, Chris, is that he was the VP at the time, and he could have decided not to certify the election, and a lot of people would have been on his side about it. Those are my two principal points. Which of those two things do you disagree with?
That he somehow, decided for the good of the country to, not
spend so much time talking fake politics. When does he ever work with a client's brand?
He ran it all.
CEO is a CEO of Stupid Incorporated.
In known corrupt counties that were producing votes, and this was found after the election, that Palm Beach County was actually making votes up. And, this is always ignored by people who want to do this revisionist history about how great Al Gore was as opposed to, what Trump does and all this other stuff. Al Gore worked on disputing that election as much as he possibly could with every legal avenue he could.
Okay, great. So I'm going to give you the five other legal avenues he could have pursued. Number one,
need fans.
Under the Voting Rights Act of 1965,
more
Equal
haters.
Protection Clause. He could have continued under that. Number two, he could have pursued the contest in Congress by not certifying. Number three, he could have appealed to the Florida State Legislature. Number four, he could have pursued further legal action in Florida courts. Number five, he could have sought other federal legislative remedies. So there are five other sources of legal action.
This is revisionist history. None of those were available to Gore.
They
were all technically available, but again, not politically feasible. And the entire Democrat Party was like, "Look, dude, we lost the election. It's time to move on." The fact that he contested it at all was outrageous.
It was 500 votes, Chris. The state was decided by 500 votes with butterfly ballots.
Right.
I mean, come on now.
In a corrupt county that probably produced thousands.
Mr. CEO is a fat ass and pre-diabetic.
The New York Times themselves
He's a
account after the Al Gore things. They basically found that George W. Bush
he's a partisan show.
And so all that was attempting to happen with Al Gore attempting to dispute that election was to get enough time to cheat. That was the entire point of Al Gore's exercise, was to get enough time to cheat, and that has been proven by history.
So let's let's go about this another way. In 2020, half of the country
Mr. CEO gets angry like a fat kid.
Right? In 2000, half of the country felt like Gore won. Do you agree with that, Chris?
I would say more like 43% of the country thought that Gore won.
Fine. And 43% of the country thought Trump won in 2020.
Fine.
My point is that the main thing he could have did, Chris, was he won.
Oh, sorry.
But Chris, the main thing he could have done, though, he was vice president. He could have decided not to certify.
But again, that hadn't been done since the Civil War.
I understand, but that's what Trump asked Pence to do. That's what Trump asked Pence to do.
He didn't ask Pence to do that.
And that's what he suggested he do.
Yeah,
that's what he pointed in windows that he do. That is
he was
what
asking Pence not to certify the election.
There's a difference. CEO, he didn't say don't certify. He said, Pence, send it back to the state.
So I mean, you could say he's sort of asking him not to certify, but he wasn't saying, "Hey, just don't certify it." He said, "Hey, I think there's a lot of stuff going on. Send it back to the states." So eventually, if Pence would have been like, "Okay, I'll send it back to the states," and then the states send it back to Pence and said, "Okay, this is what we found," he probably would have been like, "Okay, well, you did what I asked. Go ahead and certify it." So it's not like he said, "Do not certify."
Sending it back to the states would have been not certifying it at the moment. Okay.
At the moment, but people make it sound like he was saying forever.
Okay, I'll see
That's
that.
fine. But my point is that we had two.
Okay,
I'm just trying to explain the history to Courtney. We had two elections prior. She had two elections prior to 2020 that were highly controversial, and in both cases, the candidates did not push it as far as Trump did. So that is what is different. The level in which it was pushed is what is different.
Well, but the difference really is, CEO.
Yeah,
The difference really is the amount.
I feel like the question that I asked isn't really like you guys are fighting over whether or not a person could have pushed it. I was just asking. I was in 4th grade. I remember. Specific things within this specific election, but overall it's vague. But the memories that I have are pretty vivid. I remember sitting in social studies class, and we were pretending as though we were voters, and so we would write on a ballot, all of that. But my question wasn't about like what happened.
CEO, man, angry Democrat fatty.
Why does it seem like we're constantly these days screaming election fraud, when in the past it didn't seem like that? Or maybe it was, and I'm just not old enough to remember. That's why I was like, can we go back 50 years, and do we see the same outcry for election fraud? So I think Nate sufficiently...
The answer is no.
There were a lot of things. There were a lot of things in that election, like with the numbers, like how they stopped counting all of a sudden. Then with this big, I don't know if you probably saw the chart with this big jump in Biden's numbers all of a sudden, like he passes Trump. Like, it just suspicious things. Then I see all these hundreds of videos on Twitter where these people are boarding up these places where they're counting the votes, where people can't watch them count the votes, and people are bringing in big pot. Like, there's just all kind of stuff going on that I don't know that social media had all these videos like this before, but you can see all these videos of all this stuff going on and people looking like they're trying to hide stuff, like they're putting boards and cardboard over the windows of these places where people can't watch count the vote. I just think that's suspicious. Whether or not that's what they intended, I don't know, but just a lot of stuff that looked very suspicious for the elections.
Yeah, that makes sense. So is there something that would be illegal about having cameras put over the counters to where they can like logically see? Because, I mean, no matter what, the government is going to have access to whether you voted Republican or Democrat, right? So it's not like that's super secret.
You can't put names in public.
Yeah, I think.
So names, but I'm saying, like, we have technology nowadays where we should be able to blur out the person that's voted, but see, okay, that's Democrat, that's Republican, that's independent, that's, you know what I mean?
Well, no, that would be a great idea, and yeah, I think there should totally be some way to do that. But no, I mean, we're supposed to have poll watchers, right? So if you don't want people to make accusations, don't do things that are guaranteed to make people have accusations. So that's one of the things Nick is talking about is in Michigan, and it was the Arena Center where they were counting the votes. Well, everyone, like Democrats and Republicans, and there's supposed to be a set number of poll watchers where everyone has eyes on this. Every party has eyes on this. And they can make sure everything is being counted legitimately. But one of the things that make people scratch their heads is when specifically in Michigan, they kicked out, like they drug out under threat of police arresting them. For some reason, they drug out the Republican poll watchers, made them stand on the outside of the building, they locked the doors, and they put cardboard up in the windows so the Republican poll watchers could not see. The Democrat poll watchers remained on the inside and counted the ballots. It's like, guys, it would be more surprising if fraud didn't happen after you pull some kind of stunt like that. Like, what possible reason would there be? It's like you kick out one party and you board up the windows and you continue counting. Like,
going to be a scenario where if Trump loses, that fraud won't be claimed, right? Like, there's not going to be any scenario where that doesn't happen. I mean, he has said in advance that he's going to do that. So that's what's different about this election, is that there is a guarantee that if one candidate loses, before there's any evidence presented of fraud, there will be a claim that the election has fraud. Is that an accurate or inaccurate statement?
I would say it's inaccurate, and I know Mark raised his hand to talk too, so I'll hear from him in a second. But, well, CEO, it's inaccurate because every time since 2016, Trump has been asked the question, will you agree, or whatever he says, will you support the president, even if it's not you? Will you basically agree with the election? Every single time, his answer is, if it's free and if it's fair, I will agree with the decision. If it seems like there's fraud, of course I won't. No one would. So that's always been the stance. But keep in mind, it's like, the other side always accuses him. Like when Trump says, there was fraud, and it seems like there's legitimate evidence that there could have been enough to overturn key states in the 2020 election. Everyone says that's bad, and he should be disallowed from running, and he's starting insurrection because of that, not just J6, all this other stuff. But keep in mind, Hillary Clinton still disputes 2016. So it's not like one side does this, every side does this. But the best way to prevent that, CEO, is like, okay, look, if you're against Trump, the best way to do that is let him have as many eyeballs as he wants. Let him put all the lawyers in there, have all the poll watchers. Don't kick them out and board up the thing. Don't count them out, balance in the middle of the night, claiming there's a false water main leak, and then count them anyways. Don't do stuff that's going to give him evidence to say there was fraud. If you really are worried that he's not going to admit the results of the election, then make sure all the Republican poll watchers get to have all the eyes they need. So even the Republican poll watchers will say, no, Trump, you're wrong. There was no fraud here. But if you're not going to do that and you're going to do a bunch of shady stuff, don't complain when he says there was fraud.
Is it true or not, Nate, that the 2016 election he won, he claimed there was fraud because he didn't win the popular vote? Is that true or false?
If he said that, I don't know. Is that a quote? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, he did say that. So,
okay.
anytime he doesn't get a result he likes, even though he won the election, he said there was fraud because of the popular vote. Now, mind you, he didn't go through any investigations during his 4 years president into the 2016 election that he thought there was fraud. Mind you, he's in control of 2020. And if you are in control, you're the president, and you get cheated out of office, you are very incompetent.
Okay, so you just said some things that don't make sense. First of all, it's like, oh, this guy, 10 out of 10 times he said there was fraud. Like, if there was fraud 10 out of 10 times, that's no fault of the guys. There was fraud 10 out of 10 times, right? So, one, popular vote doesn't matter, so he won the election. So if he thought, I don't know, I haven't heard any reports because, again, it doesn't matter, so there's not a lot of attention on it. But if he got reports that, there was somehow fraud or whatever, which I'm sure there was, like, they've already found, like, extra Democrat ballots stuffed in the drain in, what's the name of the town? In California, right? So it's a state that's going to be completely blue. So all it can affect is more of the popular vote. So it's like they're already like ballot stuffing like 12 ballots for one household. Did you hear about that? It was on local news, picked up by national news in the California city last week. And this guy's like, yeah, I was just cleaning my drain, found a bunch of like 12 ballots for the same address stuffed in here, like it's ready for the election. He's like, got my attention because there's so much stuff on election integrity, so I tried to turn it in. The post office wouldn't take it back. So it's like, I'm sure there was fraud because if you know you're a blue state anyways, all you can do is get more of that blue state. So if he heard a report or something like that, well, it's completely fine if he's like, well, I think something's fishy, but it's also fine if he doesn't investigate because it's like, well, he already won and it doesn't matter. So you can think there's fraud and not, you can't put out every single fire. It's a big country. But also, he tried to do everything he could, and I feel like the vice president stabbed him in the back because of his whatever weird moral compass that was just misplaced. Because that's exactly the process you follow. We know as a fact Pennsylvania did something that was outside of the law. It is up to Congress to make the rules on the elections and the ballots, and the Supreme Court usurped Congress, and they made the unilateral decision that was against the law. That was a state that didn't go for him. So you can talk about the other stuff in Michigan and Georgia too, or whatever, but specifically Pennsylvania, no one can dispute that. So when he's like, Pence, send this back to the states, please. And Pence is like, no, I cannot. That doesn't mean he's incompetent. That was the role of the vice president. The vice president was a turncoat. So he's not incompetent. That's what happened. But Mark, you raised your hand some time ago. How are you doing, Mark?
Hey, powerful enough to destroy it all, like woman glory. Oh, did the all-father, all-powerful, once again.
So, for me, one of the values of anecdotal evidence. And so, I have a quick story. So, for that last election, I lived in my house for like 10 years, and I had never received anything in the mail. And before the last election, I got a ballot in the mail with somebody else's name on it.
Both great
and,
power.
I really wanted
the only difference is I'm not ashamed
decide to win the election, so I told my wife, I said, well, we should just fill this out and turn it in too. And I thought, well, that would be cheating because I get one vote.
That's where I get off.
I shouldn't fill out a ballot for somebody else's name and turn it in. And I got to thinking, if that happened to me, how much did that happen? To me, I hate mail-in ballot. I understand that some people are unable to get out or shut in or something like that, but the whole idea of a mail-in ballot just bothers me. And I've been getting, this time, probably about 10 text messages saying, you can request a mail-in ballot, there's still time. And I respond back to those. I say, no, do not send me mail-in. I said, you got to stop offering mail-in ballots, or else whichever party wins, if it's close, the other party's going to claim fraud. Because mail-in ballots are so easy to fraud. I don't know. What do you guys think?
100%. I think they shouldn't be massing out. I think if people want an absentee ballot or specifically request a mail-in ballot, I think that should be fine. That should be allowed, because if you're one person's requesting one ballot, it gets sent to them just like any mail. When you do mass sending out of ballots for people that don't request them, you're begging for trouble. So, I mean, it's like what we're talking about, right? If one side or the other is so, in this case, it's the Democrats versus Republicans for this election, they're so gung-ho saying like Republicans are going to be the ones crying fraud. If you think whatever your opponent is going to cry fraud no matter what, then go a little bit out of your way to preempt their cries, to make them fall on deaf ears. You can do that by not pushing for mass mail-in voting. You can do that by not kicking out poll watchers for their side only. You can do that by not shutting down things in the middle of the night and then resuming counting when everyone's going to bed. You can do things like shed light on it, right? Sunlight's the best disinfectant. So spread as much light and eyeballs as you can, and then if your opponent cries fraud, everyone, including their own side, will say, no, there was no fraud. We all watched this. Everyone saw this. And that person crying is the lone person. If you don't do that, then you have no legitimate standing to say, no, there's not fraud. If you're doing everything shady you can think of, expect it. Adam, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I was going to say that, I have a story, from the last election about this, because, I, like, hundreds of other people went and voted at the polls for the candidate that I wanted, and in there, and the night of the election, I was at work, and I was doing a job at that time where I could sit at a computer, and I could do my work on one screen, and on the other screen, I could have the election results up, and I literally watched 3 states at the very end of the election, because I worked third shift at that point, so I could be there the entire night. I literally watched 3 states 20 minutes after the polls had closed and everything was supposed to be counted. 20 minutes later, 3 states flipped to a totally different color than what they were projecting they were going to flip to, and then they were saying that was the time that there was mass amounts of ballots being found in trash bags for the Democratic Party. And so I watched this live. I watched it happen. I was not on a propaganda side. I wasn't on anything. I was on the main site for the election results and all that stuff. And I watched this stuff happen live on my computer. And so, like, you can't tell me that, you know, there was no election fraud or anything like that, because I literally watched 20 to 30 minutes after the polls had closed, 3 states flipped that were projecting, you know, certain colors and certain, like, they were going with this certain party. I watched them flip automatically to the other side 30 minutes after everything was supposed to be completed, counted, and they were supposed to find out who won.
Steve, this is what I'm talking about. You, my friend, had a false memory. Pennsylvania. I'm going to give you evidence you had a false memory, and then tell me which state I'm wrong in. Pennsylvania flipped to Biden 3 days after the election. Wisconsin flipped to Biden the day after the election. Michigan flipped to Biden the day after the election. Georgia flipped to Biden 3 days after the election. Arizona flipped to Biden a week after the election. And Nevada, the 7th, 4 days later. So which of these 6 states are you referencing that switched on election night? Because I can provide you unquestioned, objective evidence that that was not the case. Go ahead.
No, it was the case, because all of these ballots showed up afterwards, and then you're gonna after it closes, you're gonna wait a week later. After it's already supposed to be counted, you're gonna change a week later. How is that not fraud? How is that not anything like that? Like, that doesn't make any sense, CEO. Like,
you're making a different argument now. What I was disputing with you. No, hold on now, Adam. Hold on.
You're bringing up something totally different that I said I saw.
Adam, you said you saw the states flip on election night. Okay.
I did.
Which state? Which state, Adam?
I don't even remember. I just know there was 3.
Because you know why? Because there were none of them. That didn't happen. I just gave you the 6 states that flipped to Biden. I just gave you. I can give you the screenshots of election night and what the totals were. You are giving out a false memory.
Would it be?
All these happened days later.
Is there maybe?
He got in fine. There was no election fraud.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Hold on, everyone. Would it maybe be some common ground to say maybe Adam is saying something like the rest of us saw, where after the polls closed, the spike went astronomically the other direction for the Democrats in many of these states, and the very next day, or right then even, the projected winners started becoming flipping states. Could that maybe be what we're talking about? Like, maybe it wasn't officially, done or whatever, but maybe because we all saw that right after
Shit was reframing and degrading by claiming false numbers. What a loser cuck.
The spike went 100%, like astronomical, off the charts for the Democrats in Georgia, and I forget what other states, but it went crazy. And then a lot of the projected states right then began to flip. Could that maybe be what's being said? And then it wasn't until a week later when it was actually settled. But maybe you guys both be meeting some common ground somewhere about that.
So Nate, no, like there is 2 different things here. I'm not making an argument that there wasn't fraud. That's not the nature of my statement here. The nature of my statement is that Biden.
The nature of my statement
3 days
here.
later at 9 a.m. to be specific. He took the lead in Wisconsin at 4 a.m. in the morning the next day. He took the lead in Michigan at 9 a.m. the next day. He took the lead in Georgia at 4:30 a.m. 3 days later. He took the lead in Arizona several days later, and he took the lead in Nevada on November 7th. So these are the points in which he took the lead.
Are you using ChatGPT for your source?
I am.
Are you able to double check that? Because that just seems really odd to me, because I think we all, unless it's like some weird Mandela effect that it's not, so I would agree with Chris on that, there's a lot of people that vividly remember like seeing this giant, right after the pipe broke, right after the pipe broke in Atlanta, and they had to shut everything down and then they began counting in the middle of the night. And lots of people vividly remember seeing that huge spike. So I don't know if there's some discrepancy, like, well, it spiked, but you didn't actually overtake it until a couple days later. Can you just double check that? Because I think that, right, you know, if you ask ChatGPT more specific questions, it may be like, oh, well, let me clarify, this actually did happen, but then this is when it officially happened. It may be one of those things.
No, Nate, you actually said this correctly. There were spikes afterwards, but the spikes did not get him in the lead in any of those states that night. All the in the lead started happening the next day in later. So you said that.
You're just not, okay, so here's what it looked like when we were watching it, right? And let me just say, I don't care. Like, I no longer care about this. I'm over it. I'm done. I've got people on Clubhouse not talking to me over this crap. I don't care. Alright? So here's the thing. We were sitting there, listen to that, baby. At 1 in the morning, we saw all of a sudden all of the projected wins hit out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. We're all watching it live. Trump is the projected winner. And then all of a sudden, right at 1 in the morning, there's like a pause in voting. They're pausing. We're waiting. We're all watching it live. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And boom, a whole bunch of states flipped to the projected winner. Was that official? Was that CNN doing their thing that they do? I don't know. But that's what this whole country saw. And so the question is, like, how many of us are just okay with that being the case? Apparently 50% of us. And 50% of us are not. But what Adam's saying isn't incorrect. That's what happened.
So he was declared the official winner of the election 4 days later.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a sudden influx of votes that led all the media to change drastically who the projected winner was at 1 in the morning.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page, CEO. Like, you have the official stuff, everyone else, and I think you even agree with the stuff we're talking about now, like the massive spikes, projected stuff, flipping. So, I mean, yeah, I think you have the official numbers. I'm willing to concede, like, sure, I'm sure that's the case. But the thing we're all talking about, yeah, so I think we're good. Kevin G in chat wrote something, though, which is concerning, because I've heard a lot of my friends say this, too. And it's like they get that false sense of confidence. He says the polls are showing Trump taking most swing states. That's kind of a toss-up. The data shows he'll exceed 270. Someone else showed me the betting odds and how, like, Trump, in the beginning, it was like he was slightly under. And now he's like, he's killing it.
Alive.
And all the Republicans I know are acting like it's a good thing. I'm like, guys, we're not out of the woods because, they don't. It's not taking fraud, right? And just like putting your thumbs on the scales. So yes, I fully think if this was free and fair, it would look like Reagan in like '84, right? Was it Monroe? Was that the guy's name?
Mondale.
Yes, Mondale. I think it would look a lot more. I mean, maybe not California, New York, but it would look a lot closer to that blood red map. But when you have things before the election, right? So even before the era of voting's already started, so this could be already happening in Georgia. But when the judge strikes down the new rule that they try to do to get eyeballs and hand verify this and hand count the machine's data to make sure the two match, he says, no, you can't do that. And now we've got reports of the machines just switching it as they vote. And if you're not a savvy voter who really counts this stuff, and if you are, you've got to re-vote multiple times to make this thing spit out data the way you vote for it. And that's even before the actual election. So imagine if they get by with this, and it seems like something so obvious that they'll win it on appeal, but that takes time. So by the time they win it, there's going to be a lot of votes already counted and already tabulated. So even if you do win it, they're like, oh, well, if he has a legal case, he'll win. I think he will win, but it's going to be too late. So many votes are going to be counted on the sudden. But then you have the other swing states. So if they're doing this, what we speculate for 2020, if they're doing this right now in Georgia, imagine what they have in store for the day of elections and the midnight of the elections. Like, I just do not have faith that the Democrats are not going to do every single thing possible to win this election, and B, the Republicans are absolutely going to knuckle under and not do hardly anything to stop what they do during this election.
Well, I just want to congratulate Steph for a second, because Steph wins the Intellectually Honest and Best Memory Award. Because, Steph, you are correct that Arizona was first called at 1:20 a.m. on election night. So congratulations.
Thank you.
By Fox.
Correct. So you
That
have
must have been
got that
Marshall
right.
Fox. Yeah.
And then
Wait, what are
and, yeah, and that well hold on. So that is the case. And then the other states they just got closer, right? But no, he didn't take the lead. It wasn't projected that night. But probably what ended up happening is because Arizona flipped and then the other states got closer in our memories, we probably just all kind of put that together, which is understandable. I'm not gonna be upset with anybody about that. Second, Nate, I think Trump will indeed, at this moment, if the election were held today, I think he would win it like 291 to 247, and I think that would be the
He's not
honest
going
win.
to
I
be
don't
upset
think there
with
would be
anyone.
some huge blowout because Harris has done a
What
lot
fragile
of smart things,
moron.
right? She had a good convention. She had a good debate. She started out with joy. Like she has done a lot
What a
of
fragile
really effective
moron.
things. The reason I think Trump will end up winning is because he basically has 4 VP candidates. He has Elon Musk, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, and Vance all out there for him. And then he's going to do better with black male and Latino male votes than any Republican in probably 64 years. So those are the 2 reasons I think he'll win.
And I think Mark went to say something too in a second, but I think if all things were considered equal, she would have dropped out and ran away in disgrace. The serious interviews she's done, which I don't even think CBS is that serious, but they're in trouble for editing now with a FCC complaint because they tried to edit out all 30 minutes of nonsense she just worded. But the Brett Bader interview, every interview Trump does pretty much. Unless it's just a throw off, he's doing the fry thing or something like that. But every
As if an
actual
FEC
interview
complaint will
he
go
does,
anywhere.
it is always a combative, and very opponent type interview. None of those actual interviews are easy for him. Everyone for Harris, except the one with Brett Baer, which he wasn't trying to be combative, but that was a serious interview. So the first real serious interview, she just completely flubbed it up everywhere. If she had done all of her interviews to that level of serious interviews, she would have been exposed from day one. So it's now they're having to pull out the stops.
She hit a nervous breakdown after he
stuff
yelled at Brett.
because they have nothing else to lose at this point. If she doesn't make a significant turn, barring fraud, there's no way she's going to win. But Mark, what do you have to say, Mark?
Yeah, when you were talking about the 2020 election night, the thing, I saw the spike, and then I saw
political,
different states flip and all that. But what really made me suspicious was that after the different videos surfaced and the pipe break and the boarding up of the windows and all that kind of stuff, what really made it suspicious was there was this huge resistance to investigating it. I thought, why not? Why not investigate it?
Prosecutors misconduct felon for political show trials.
There's no fraud. And they just refused to investigate it, which to me adds credence to the fact that there was cheating going on to the scale that it really made a difference in the election. And I kind of think it's pretty cool that if Trump gets elected this time, that he'll have been elected 3 times in a row to the office of president. I think that's really
correct because it's all
And then,
lies.
CEO, what do you think about this? This is a very real thing, right? So you have different categories of people, and one, it's the people in power. They don't care, to cheat, lawfare. They want to win power at all costs. They would rather win an election and rule over the ashes than to be second fiddle to a prosperous world. So you have that group who know they're frauds, who know they're liars, who know they're cheating. They don't care. They want power. Then you have the gullible underlings who just believe this stuff. They're like, Trump's evil. He's literally Hitler. And then you try to explain what literally means, and then they call you literally Hitler. It's he can't be literally Hitler, and even if he was, you can't have 2 literal Hitlers. Anyway, so you try to explain that, and they just keep regurgitating these talking points. That the side of
She's
the
good
echelon
at
above them
absolutely
knows
nothing.
they're lying and don't care, but their underlings apparently buy it. They're like,
He's
no,
talking.
we're going to pay 80% taxes, but that's good because Trump's mean. We have comments in chat, so what do you think about this, CEO? Then I'm going to have
She's
to get rid
good
of you.
at
Don't leave, Steph. Don't
absolutely
leave.
nothing.
I've got 10 minutes.
Talking
I'm just
words.
giving
I'm
everyone
not
else
leaving,
time.
Dave.
usually I'm like, hey guys, I'm gonna have to get ready to go, and Steph's like a ghost.
No, ever since I learned that you don't like that, I have been staying to the end. I'm glad my efforts have gone unnoticed. Wow.
I have PTSD from everyone leaving. Okay, so CEO and then everyone else. What are your thoughts about this? Right. So let's back up a little bit.
Leading, fighting communists,
I have to keep scrolling up.
shitting his pants.
He's a felon, right? Are felons about to be president of the U.S. now? Felons with sexual assault charges? Well, yes, they are. So technically, yes. Anyone can be president. They meet the minimum requirements. So yes. Secondly, does anyone actually think that's legit? I mean, no. Okay. Well, I mean, this person does. Let's see. Brett tried to steamroll her. Trump's good at what? There was some other awesome comment in there from this person. But yeah, CEO, so what do you think about just that kind of trope, right? Like the same stuff that's been debunked, like the fine people hoax, saying Trump supporting Nazis and white supremacy, all these other things, calling the veterans suckers and losers. The people at the top know it's debunked, right? Wall said it, Biden said it, Kamala keeps saying it. They know it's been debunked, and they shouldn't be saying it, but then their underlings keep saying it. Like, it's kind of the same trope as the person in chat right now with, like, oh, Trump's a felon, right? As if he actually did felony stuff and it's not lawfare. So what do you think about those people? Like, there's legitimate criticism for Trump, but none of this stuff is. But it's like half the country seems to buy into it. The half on the opposing side at the top, they know it's lies, but they don't care. But the half below them on the same side, they seem legitimately to believe it.
Yeah, I think certainly there's a lot of very false hoaxes. I don't disagree with your point, and it's become part of acceptable political gamesmanship at this point, right? And it's very unfortunate, and I hope as a country we grow out of it, and I hope we grow out of it in the next decade would be my hope. But I think, I don't know if that was Mark who said Trump won in 2020. I feel like the thing that gets missed when people say that, I provide a lot of analysis on Twitter, is that, Trump did not run as good of a campaign in 2020 as he did in 2016, or that he's running this time. In 2020, a lot of people were sick of him on Twitter and all the grievances, and 83 million people were indeed motivated not to like him. It's not that Biden was great and he was better than Obama. It was you were voting for or against Trump in 2020. Whereas this year, he's running a much better campaign. So unless something drastic changes in the next 2 weeks, I think he will win because he's running a much better campaign than he did in 2020. And I feel like when people say, oh, you missed that. You missed the reality of how much better his campaign is this time than it was in 2020.
Well, he also does have, like you said, 4 VPs. That's a great way to look at it.
Hey,
real quick. Well, I wanted to say something, but I'll wait. He invoked Mark. Let's get Mark and then Chris, and then I wanted to ask.
So I was going to say, I was just kind of joking about the 3 in a row thing. But CEO, what do you think about my comment that there seemed to be this huge resistance after the 2020 election?
Waltz is indeed an abusive
past. It wasn't until like a year later that they actually started investigating.
Well,
can you respond really fast to you?
I think they had 64 court cases that occurred within a 6-week time period after the election. About 7 of them, Trump withdrew them. 15 of them or so got thrown out. 30-something, they just, ruled against him, and he won one of the 64 cases. So that's what I think of it. The legal system operated very quickly.
Well, the legal system, I think, is corrupt. You can be like, oh, they don't. People act as if all these lawsuits got fair shake. Like most of them, I think it was more than what you said. Didn't even get heard because it was like you don't have standing. And then I think it was like kind of like they played very loose with the reasons for why you don't have standing. But Chris, you wanted to say something?
Trump appointees.
Chris. Well, check back with him. Perhaps
Sorry,
he can't.
I was trying to get some eggs out of the fridge. So, CEO. So here's the thing. I think Trump is going to lose. I don't think it's because he's not running a good campaign or because he's actually not going to win the election. I think what's going to happen is that there's going to be a level of cheating that is just baked into the swing states at this point because of laws that were passed during COVID that he simply will not be able to overcome.
I agree.
If that occurs, will you concede that that this election was stolen? Because every indicator at this point is that Trump will probably beat Harris by maybe a point, and that we are going to get at the last moment, days after the election, a huge dump of ballots that will be 100% for Harris, and that it will be quite obvious fraud.
Yeah, so a few things. So one, we're not going to have anywhere near the amount of votes after election day as we did in 2020 because not as many people are mailing in votes. So that just is not on the table as a serious option. Number two, if there is no major surprise or anything, and I'm still predicting Trump wins 291 to 247 going into election day, and he loses, then yes, I'll be very surprised and we'll be curious as to why, and we'll wait to see what explanations are, including fraud. So absolutely, I would be shocked assuming nothing is the next 2 weeks.
And I do think, something that's not reported enough because it's not a swing state is like California, right? I don't think it was a judge. I think it was Newsom, right? They just, was it an executive order or law? Whatever happened there, I think, I can be open to correction, but for some way, either judicial or I think it was Newsom and either Congress or executive order or something that prevents California from asking for anyone's ID to vote. That right there plays into the popular vote claim because it's how many immigrants have came in over the last 4 years? Multiple millions. How many of those are in California? How many of those are going to vote? And now, how many of those, 100% of them, cannot be asked for ID? So it's just things like that. But also, a lot of people are saying, well, Georgia even is saying, look how many votes are coming in early for Republicans. This is amazing. This is amazing. It's not amazing. Day of voting is the way to go, especially for elections where you think there's fraud. It's we have 300,000 early votes for Republicans. We're going to need 300,000 Democrat votes to counter that. It just gives them what they need. It gives them numbers 15 days in advance, I think 20 whenever it started, days in advance that they know they need to be able to compensate for versus overwhelming it the day of. So they get hit with something too big that, oh crap, we can't possibly figure out a way to bake in this many.
Are you going to be... Chris and Nate, are you guys going to be sad when Trump wins and there won't be this sort of drama? Are you all going to be sad about that?
If Trump wins, I'm not going to be sad at all. I think, I think a couple things.
If Trump wins...
Wait, you don't remember how the media behaves when Trump is in office? It's about to get 10,000 times harder for all of us when he...
Well, I want to come to you, Steph, for the last comment. But along those lines, I put on your conspiracy hats for a minute. So one, over the weekend, I think, or last week, Xi Jinping just came out in military garb and everything, giving his troops a pep talk, saying basically get ready for war. I don't think he necessarily said against who. He just said prepare for war. North Korea just blew up all the roads in and out of South Korea, threatening war. It seems like now they're coming out with Chinese or North Korean troops are in Ukraine. I think fighting on the side of Russia. So. It seems like something big is baking under the scenes, and I wonder if a couple of crazy things, and then maybe some more likely things. If in the 15 days, 14 days now leading up to election, there's something that happens where an actual war is declared, and either Biden cancels the election and gets the U.S. involved to a degree, like Ukraine, how they canceled their elections because of the Russia war. If Biden's going to get the U.S. involved to a degree where he can cancel the election and just stay in power, or if his overlords are going to say, all right, Biden, get out, so they can put Harris in as president for a few days, just so they can say, look, she's been president now, blah, 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 and give her more of an up in the polls for an October surprise. I wonder about that. And then if Trump actually wins, I'll be very happy. But what kind of stuff are they going to pull? Like, we listened last week, right, when no one believed me, and I had to get the video clip of Jamie Ratskin saying how they were going to have civil war conditions. They were not going to certify the election, no matter if Trump wins. And they were going to have to tell everyone that under the 14th Amendment, he's not allowed to be president, and then get ready for a war. So you've got him openly declaring that's his position in Congress as someone way too influential, but still influential. And then it's like 76 days between the election and inauguration. We saw what happened. Every time Democrats lose, there's violence, murder, mayhem, riots, fire, everything. I think there could be some very bad stuff in store. I will be happy and take a little breath, if Trump actually gets inaugurated and gets control of the government, probably in a few months, if he cleans house like he says he's going to. Steph, you mentioned how you're sick of this because you've lost so many people won't talk to you now. I thought you only talk politics and stuff when we make you in here. Is that something that you've done a lot of in other rooms?
No, not even just on Clubhouse. In real life, okay? We had these very good friends, and they were a couple, and they were Sarah and Anna were their names, and they were good buddies of ours. We had them watch our kids all the time, and my daughter loved them, and da-da-da. And so one time they were also friends with my brother, and one time somebody let slip that we voted for Trump, and they sent this text that was so long about how they felt so betrayed and abandoned, and how we were horrible people right under their noses this whole time, and they didn't even know. And it was one of the most hurtful things that's ever happened to me. And I responded and said, do you want to know why I voted for Trump? And they said, no, we know everything about you. We need to know. And I realized that bigotry goes both ways. And it's equal and opposite on the other side. So that's why I get sick talking about it, is because it's just if you don't have the maturity to disagree with somebody or to try to put yourself in their shoes, then it's pointless. It is, I don't know. It just creates equal and opposite opposing forces. So I'm tired of losing friends about it when I explain, well, his foreign policy, as I see, is a priority because of these 5 nations that are, so I'm sorry that you can't use both bathrooms, but I'm really concerned about nuclear war. And that doesn't seem to make sense to people. I'm not saying I don't care about I don't care about domestic policy, I don't care about your children, I don't care about your feelings. None of that is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I don't want to be in a nuclear war, and I'm voting for the person that I think has the ability to stop that. I'm not making any statements about how I feel about you being married to each other, or whatever the case may be. And people cannot understand that. So I just get annoyed. I have somebody very important to me on Clubhouse not talking to me right now because I said I didn't want to condemn January 6th. The reason for that is because the rhetoric about it being a violent insurrection is wildly disproportionate, completely historically illiterate. We have examples of what insurrections actually look like. And the fact that Kamala Harris stood there in public and said with her whole entire chest that January 6th was the worst domestic terrorist act since 9/11 should horrify people. That's where I am on it. So no, I'm not. It depends on the conversation, but man, I am sick of it, honestly.
Well, it is. For such a satanic book, everyone should read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. It's something right out of the mouth of the devil. It's just so it promotes itself on being deceptive, which comes from the devil. But really, it's they accuse. They've mastered this to such an obvious degree. They're so good at it, it's so blatantly obvious for everyone else. It's whatever they're doing, they accuse the other side of not even 80%. But 100%. So it's when they're Trump would use his full power to criminalize everything and throw us all in jail. In 2016, he kept making jokes about throwing Hillary in jail. He never did. He said it wasn't worth it. He really thought, foolishly, that he could have unified the country because everyone wanted prosperity and everyone would have let their differences go because everyone would be wealthier. It would be a better, more prosperous time. And he was wrong. Because these people don't want wealth. They have all the money they can ever want. They can just print more money. They have people in power. They don't want wealth. They want power. And he was wrong. He was deceived. He foolishly thought he could help it by making the economy better. So he didn't go after his political opponents. There's legit criminals that, had some stuff that you couldn't ignore, and the Justice Department handled that. But he himself, there's no indication that he had any will to go after his political opponents. In 2020 to 2024, and they've done exactly that. What they say he's going to do in 2025 now, they're doing now. Steve Bannon is still in jail. And this is all, Peter Navarro was in jail. They've gone after Trump with all kinds of ridiculous lawfare, election interference, doing this all the way up to the election, still going on. They just talk about using lawfare. It's like, Kamala's like, they're going to use the military to go after citizens. He never said that at all. That's not what he's talking about at all. Versus they're using their lawfare to go after, like, how many, like, 70-plus grandmas who've been praying outside abortion clinics on the other side of the road have, what was another? It was like Belia something. It was some, like, black lady who looked to be, like, 30 or 40, just got a 2-year prison sentence for praying outside an abortion clinic. So they're getting, like, 2 and 4 and 6-year sentences for this. Like, the grandma, like, an 78-year-old grandma on J6, she walked through the ropes that police officers guided her between. If you're trying to do a violent insurrection, you don't think that the people you're supposed to be insurrecting against are going to peacefully open velvet ropes and you're going to gingerly walk through on your walking cane in there and go take a free tour of the Capitol. You don't think that. She's in jail right now. Many of these people don't have trials. So the thing they say the Republicans are going to do to them, they have been doing to Republicans and conservatives for the last 4 years. Again, not for cheating, not for doing violence, not for doing anything. I mean, a lot of them just for praying outside abortion clinics. So, by the way, the first person in the UK just got convicted of a thought crime. So, you should look this up. Just Google thought crime, first ever convicted in the UK. It was a guy who was praying silently. Like, he was just bowing his head across the road in an abortion clinic in England, and they arrested him for praying. So he wasn't even praying out loud. That was a specific point of this thing. He was silently praying by bowing his head, and they just gave him a 2-year prison sentence for it. Anyway, so yeah.
I mean, Nate.
Trump.
Yeah, finish up. Sorry.
Yeah. So if Trump does win, like, I think we may have a chance to buy ourselves some time. If he doesn't, man, get ready to experience first century Christian persecution. It's probably coming. Go ahead, Steph. Are you on the phone now? Or?
No, I'm here. I was just going to say, like, part of this is that I don't know where everybody lives, but in my town during COVID, okay, I'm in New York. I'm in a very liberal part of New York. We were turned away from grocery stores, pharmacies, and hospitals because we didn't have vaccination cards. This is, like, there were police officers standing. I'll tell you this one because it's actually where I work. It's an hour away. In Johnson City, New York, they had police officers standing outside of Walmart checking vaccination cards and not letting people in. And I was trying to pick up a prescription for my kid that day, and I was turned away at the door. Like, this is not some, like, bizarre, far-off, distant memories that we have, right? This is, like, in my area, this was a thing for months.
The cops who did that should absolutely be fired, and the politicians who mandated that should be tried and executed for treason.
People in my town, and you can look it up. Yeah, I know. People in my town were getting tickets for having more than 2 cars in a driveway. You had to apply for a permit with your municipality if you had, like, a teenager and you had 3 cars, right? The churches, if you were going to church and you sat in the parking lot, you would get a $500 ticket on your windshield. Like, this was happening. So we used to meet at a church at my friend's house, and we all had to park around back, and they had, like, a big property. We had to hide our cars, and then we had to leave at separate times so that the neighbors at the bottom of the hill didn't notice that they had a whole bunch of people there. It was horrible. And this was real. Like, we got this taste of... What, Pastor Mike?
The underground church.
I mean, I don't know if I would go that far, but it's like, at least where I live, the liberals got their dream situation because they had no resistance and were fully supported, and that's what it looked like. You know, if you had made a political statement or whatever, you had your vaccine, and you were an 80-year-old lady, you could go get your meds. My child, who was very ill at the time, because we were not vaccinated, did not have access to medication. Like, this was a reality.
The liberals wanted your child to die. That's what they wanted.
I mean, again, I don't know if I would go that far. I'm only explaining what my experience was.
Well, at a certain... what's up, James?
I just want to ask, mind if I jump in a little second? So, Steph, I'm sorry that happened. Was there an alternative way to get medication?
Yeah, so what they ended up implementing was, see, I live in a rural area where we don't have, like, what's it called? Guys, what's that? Instacart. We don't have Instacart.
Was there curbside pickup at all?
You had to call, so weeks in, the pharmacy said on Facebook, you can call us and arrange to have a contactless curbside pickup, and so that's what we ended up doing. But it took weeks for them, and same for groceries.
Cool. Well, I'm sorry that was troublesome. About the $500.
Troublesome. It was terrifying. It was like terrifying, James. That was a very scary thing to live through.
It's like Handmaid's Tale about how they think it's a dystopian future for, like, you know, conservatives getting in charge.
Okay, I'll rephrase my words. I'm sorry it was terrifying and your child almost died.
No, my kid didn't almost die.
Your child was near death. That's terrible.
That's not what happened.
That should never fucking happen.
That's not what happened. Oh my gosh. Nobody almost died in my family, but there were other people in my church who
you just said it was terrifying. Your child was in near death. So what is it? Yes or no?
James, I didn't say my child was near death. You need to.
Well, you guys are very strange. You guys are very.
Hold on, James. Take a breath. It's
all
okay.
I want to know is these $500 tickets. $500 tickets on windshield.
Yeah.
Can those be verified? Because that's really interesting to me.
I never got one because I was too broke to go to church and risk getting a $500 ticket. So we joined a house church.
That's not my question.
Can what be verified?
The 500 tickets that were claimed to be put on windshields.
Yeah.
Okay. How can they be verified?
I don't know. Google towns that were ticketing people for going to church. Like, this is a thing. This wasn't a.
So this kind of makes me. I'll just say one more thing. Then I have to run my parents are visiting this week. But I said 10 minutes, 20 minutes ago. I got the smiley face as if I was like shutting down confrontation. But he left on his own. I didn't kick him. So that's interesting. But it's kind of like what James just said. It's like, oh, well, was your child near death or was it just really bad? It's like kind of like Martha Raddatz at Genius, who's like, when she was talking to Vance, he's like, Trende Arawaga, whatever the name is, the Venezuelan gang is coming in, taking over apartment complexes. She's like, now, Vance, that's only a handful. It's like, what? Do you even hear yourself? It's only a handful. Like, it shouldn't be one. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's 1, 10, or 1,000. It should not be one. The fact that you're like, oh, well, it's not that bad. They've only murdered several people. It's like, no. The fact that they murdered anyone. It's like, oh, well, was your kid, bleeding out right there? Oh, no, he was just severely in pain. Oh, well, it's like, no. None of it should happen. It's like, was it Thomas Jefferson that got interviewed one time? And they're like, hey, what level of tyranny will be tolerated or accepted? It's like, only to the level the citizens allow. So it's like, the point is, there's always someone more and more evil who's willing to take power from the slightly less evil and run that scale, run that flag all the way to the pole until it breaks. So whatever's happening now, in the COVID lockdowns, that tyranny, all this other stuff, next round, it's going to be worse. And it's going to be worse. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse. More people are going to get thrown in jail for other stuff that's legitimately not worthy of being thrown in jail in, until, as a country, people finally are like, no more. And that's the only way to get tyrants to back down, because if you don't, if you just keep saying, well, no, I'll just go along and get along, or it's easier to keep my head down. Well, eventually they're going to run out of people, and it's going to be you in the crosshairs. So I mean, to the level people allow. So I don't know.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The part that made it terrifying was not that my child almost died. That's not the case. That didn't happen. He was sick and he needed prescriptions. He didn't almost die. He was fine to wait a couple weeks for his antibiotic, right? It was okay. The part that made it terrifying was that in that moment, we didn't know what it was going to look like, right? Like, is this the moment that New York is going to relegate? Like, this was the same time that Governor Cuomo was saying Republicans had no place in New York State. What does that mean? We already can't pick up our prescriptions. How much worse could it get? Like, the part that was terrifying was that there was no resistance. Everybody, our neighbors were calling on people, calling the police to say they have 3 cars in their driveway. That was terrifying. How quickly neighbors and friends turned against neighbors, and how quickly, the municipality turned against the church. Because the churches were the main people you could go to the gym eventually, but you could not go to church, right? So it was very clear who was going to be protected and who wasn't, and that's what made it terrifying.
Well, everyone, anyone want to say something really quick? Because I've got to run.
Well, I was going to say.
When you
Oh,
mentioned
never.
real quick, when you mentioned the Venezuelans, did you see the Babylon Venezuelans try to take over Buc-ee's? And it shows the guys with the Texas outfit shooting them down.
I did not. But I cannot believe Abbott. Like, I know him and Paxton. Like, I mean, Paxton really seems like a good guy. Like, they're constantly trying to go after him.
He evolved along with the technology, but in a much smarter and more responsible.
Mariam, I want to say that I have seen this happen live. I mean, the way this happened to me personally, and I don't want to go into it with that much detail, but a year ago, I was trying. This girl came and said she lost her phone, so she wanted to use my phone, and which is fine. But then she would use my phone to really like cuss out her boyfriend, who was and then somehow, because she was using my phone, like she would get his number and like just say, oh, you're talking to other girls, show me your phone, I need to see all your Tinder, are you talking to other girls, because